or Benny Biamano Bufano attitude. Just could dive into it and do it.
Yeah. See, now when you quote Picasso, I have a very limited knowledge of all the great or ungreat artists because I've never studied the field. I just dive in.
Well, I don't have any personal acquaintance with any of these guys either. But, you were mentioning earlier how you took on one of your masterpiece projects of Guernica.
Yes. After, now, about my sixth painting was The Women of Avignon, okay, by Picasso, and I repainted it. And I know I was using his design, but even if you have somebody's design and you're a novice, really new to it, it's not easy. And so I showed that painting at a group of artists. All of them had 50, 60 years of experience. And they all called me the most audacious person they ever met in their lives. You know, they said, he doesn't even know how to take the paint out of a pail. And what does he do? And he's repainting Picasso and Matisse. And one lady, when she saw The Women of Avignon, she got up and she said, the next thing that audacious guy is going to do is Guernica. My knowledge of art was so limited at the time, I didn't know what Guernica was. Okay. I went home. I said to my wife, this lady said, I'm so audacious, and the next thing I'm going to do is Guernica. By the way, Guernica is behind us.
Right. And
my wife said, you don't want to do that. That's an extremely complex painting, 26 feet long, black, white, and gray. So you don't want to, that's just, you don't want to do it. As soon as I heard black, white, and gray and complex, I said, I'm going to do it. And my seventh or eighth painting was Guernica, and I named it Guernica after Picasso.
But in Technicolor.
In Technicolor.
So you added to Picasso.
And then all my artist friends couldn't believe what happened. Because, you know, artists fight, kill almost to get a show. The phone rings, and it's the San Francisco Bass Community Center. And their manager said, Mr. Killen, in 2 months, it's going to be the 70th anniversary of the bombing of Guernica in Spain, and we have a big 6-week event. We want to come look at your painting. They came down, they looked at the painting, and they said, we want it. And I said, what for? And they said, we want your painting to be the only painting for the 6-week commemorization of Guernica. The bombing of Guernica.
Wow. That's a fascinating anecdote of things. Have you copied Mona Lisa or any other?
No, okay. I stopped.
Okay.
That was sort of like my freshman, sophomore, senior years of painting. I almost immediately went into first it was songs. Okay. I would find a song that just touched me, like that great song, These Foolish Things Remind Me of You. And the words would be, oh, how the ghost of you cling. And I would take, oh, how the ghost of you cling, and I would try to make a painting that captures the sentiment of somebody whose heart is being held by somebody else. I started to do songs. Okay. And then when I showed them at the art critiques, I would sing the songs. Okay. And people would say, drop the singing. Okay. And then I moved on to big issues.
So song art. Now, let's move on into the big issues. One of the, I think you're the first artist I've met who's concentrating, mixing art with climate change, global warming, climate change. And one of the first paintings I saw in the brochure of yours was the cave art painting, and which I immediately was taken by. So I want to ask you, first of all, what were you thinking when you took this ancient art of humanity and sort of recreated a beautiful red painting out of it?
I'm going to answer that question, but I also want to say what I was thinking. I had just finished another painting, and I was on this campaign that every painting after the one I made would always be at least twice as good as the previous one. I really was on this incredible. All right, now I hope my team has, it would bring up the painting. All right, there it is. Okay, my muse was, this was during the Bush administration. My muse was influenced by how regulations that govern businesses was being reduced or lessened everywhere. My muse was how I looked at what I could see was happening in the environment, our education, and many other areas, but very, very much environmental things. And I already, you know, I devour the New York Times every morning and the Palo Alto Weekly once a week. And so I have a feeling of a lot of things that are going on around the world. Not that I'm a master of any of them. And I felt the way we were going as a civilization, we could collapse. And maybe I was reading Jad Diamond's Pulitzer Prize. I don't know if he got the Pulitzer for the book Collapse, where he actually documented different societies that actually did foolish things like cut down all the trees. And it was the end of their society. And I stepped back and I said, wait, it is possible the people on the earth could get so smart that they'd be so stupid with their power and destroy us. And then I start to say to myself, all right, if that could happen someday, maybe 1.5 billion years from now, a new life would emerge. And I said to myself, what might they see on the walls of the caves? And so that affected me a lot. And then I also have been very touched by having seen cave art firsthand in Africa, and then in books, the Lascaux caves in France. And you know, there's something primordial or something about the early art, and then I don't know what else happened, but I just made this painting.
So when I first saw the painting, I was drawn to it. And I guess what it signified to me was I've been interested in cave art and archaeology and anthropology. And it seemed to me that what you had done there was to recreate a symbolic vision of what was the very first, or one of the very first examples of human self-awareness and creativity. Part of it largely a religious-based, you know, praying or apologizing to the animal spirits that they painted and getting ready for the hunt, but also portraying their world at the same time. So here was this situation of where I see this modern version of this vivid painting. I thought, well, here is going back to the origins at the same time, and I wasn't aware of what your thinking was, but mine was, I really like it because it symbolizes the beginning of human intelligence and self-awareness, and perhaps one of the beginnings of religion. And so that was what I was drawn to. So sometimes the artist does something completely different than the viewer does with it. So.
And I'm touched by what you see, and you know, I hope everyone sees something different. And the man who got me started, and I've had a rough road with him sometimes, Leonard Brager, his specialty is critiquing art. When he saw this painting, he said somewhat what you said. He said, this is a painting that covers art from the beginning of time to the present. And I sat there and I said, wow. And if you see that, Leonard, yes, right on. But I would just like to go back to some things that you said about much, much earlier times. After I did that painting, I did the one behind you, which is called Climate Change. And then I did Evolution of Consciousness. And I tried to go back to where religion first was observed, art was first observed, and I went forward to the present time.